On today's episode of the Cryptoverse. As billions of euros is withdrawn from ATMs, can Bitcoin help the Greeks to protect their wealth? Hardware wallets are the only way to truly store your cryptocurrency securely. Ledger provide a range of devices to suit all budgets and preferences. Check out my review of the Ledger Nano S by clicking on the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. Today is Monday the 20th of February 2017. Let's begin with the market roundup. Over on coinmarketcap.com, we see by market cap, number 11 is Iconomy, and it is the biggest winner of the day, having gained 7.74% of its value and putting a Iconomy token at 36 cents. Contrast that with the coin 15th by market cap, it's Golem. A Golem token now worth near enough 3 cents each, having lost 10.07% of its value. There's one other thing I want to say about the market roundup today, in that I've mentioned this before, but the gap between Dash and Monero has closed quite a bit. That used to be quite a big leap from 6th to 5th. It used to be like $50 odd million. Whereas, given that Monero has lost 8.29% of its value, and over the weekend Dash has leapt up towards $22 a coin, after that 8.3% drop on Monero, Dash is now just $13 million behind Monero by market cap. So if that gap closes even further, we could be looking at Dash displacing Monero as the fifth most capitalized coin. So let's see what happens with that. Next, we check in with bitcoinwisdom.com for the Bitcoin price chart. Now, the one thing I noticed today is a pattern that looks like a double top. And this is when the chart makes like an M shape, and then that second part of the M is lower than the first part. So that's like it's a double top is generally a reversal pattern, meaning it's a sign that the direction of the trend might be about to turn around. And as we know, as you can see from most of my lines here and the waves that are going up, this is an uptrend that we are in right now. Now, I feel the need to say this because of the nature of the comments that I'm getting about my chart analysis section. Technical analysis is not an exact science, and it's not based on a single indicator or a single pattern. So if I identify a double top, that's a reversal pattern, as I've said, you'd be a fool to just take that at face value because it neglects to take into account all the other signals that I can see on the chart, or even that I've drawn previously. Wisdom is knowing when to trust your eyes and when not to, due to greater experience. So while technically this is forming a double top, I do not believe it will lead to a reversal. Right? You don't just go by the textbook. It's not as clear cut as that. It's not like, oh, that's a double top, therefore it's a reversal, therefore definitely this is going to happen. You have to take, it's a system of analysis. You have to take that as one piece of data and mix it into a recipe with all the other indicators and then make a judgment call on balance, which way is it going to go? Because there'll always be signs that it's going to go down. There's always going to be signs that it's going to go up. Seldom do all the indicators agree that categorically it's going to go up. And even if they did, that doesn't guarantee that it will, right? It's not an exact science. And that's what I think that bugs people out, because they're looking for some kind of perfect system which will guarantee them to predict the price movement. Well, that's just daft, right? Why would anybody lose money if that was the case? So I do not believe it will turn into a downtrend. Worst case scenario, we'll see a pullback to the trend line that I've got here, but that would just be like any old price correction, as price follows the two phases, phase 1 and phase 2 that I talk about. And then finally, Bitcoin Core version 0.14 has just been released, so I need to have a read through the release notes for that, because that kind of thing falls into the category of fundamental analysis rather than technical analysis. So those kinds of new features in Bitcoin and that kind of stuff will help the fundamental direction, the way the wind blows underneath, far and away from any kind of speculation. Time for a quick Segway forecast then. On balance, I looked at all the comments for and against this segment, and I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to keep it very snappy. That is the win-win, right? So you don't have to sit through minutes and minutes of me babbling on about it. So basically, the Litecoin network is jumped right up to 18.72% support for Segway on the Litecoin network. That's a 10% jump, and it puts the activation date 37 days out. So my projected activation date based on the trend is the 29th of March. So that's going to happen very, very soon indeed. That means that Litecoin will make it and will activate Segway. By contrast, Bitcoin has retreated by 0.5%. That puts the Segway support on Bitcoin now at 23.2. And that means at this rate, it's going to take 1,265 days to activate Segway. And that means it won't activate till 2020. And that's way past the deadline. Therefore, at this rate, Segway is not going to make it and activate on the Bitcoin network. So in terms of the news then, I've turned to bitcoin.com. It was a hard decision today. There was many a good article to choose from, but this one sort of won out overall. So Greece are in a bit of a mess, right? The country has turned into a pretty, what I'd call a stereotypical debt slave. Like when an individual gets into more debt than they can reasonably repay, they have to start then giving up their assets. And that's the situation that Greece finds itself in. And the problem there, of course, whether it's on an individual level or on a national level with a country, what happens when you run out of assets to hand over, right? Then you really are forever a slave to your creditors, because the only thing you've got left is your labor to continue to work and then pay the interest on the debt, which you will never escape from. And that is the tragic situation that Greece is heading into. It actually says here that Greece continues to suffer from economic turmoil as European lenders and the International Monetary Fund struggle to impose austerity measures across the country. And this is my first point right here. This is the problem with homogenization. Homogenization is everything I stand against. It's when you treat everyone the same when they are not the same. Right? There are a good number of Greek citizens who have been responsible with their money, who have paid taxes, invested, and yet when a crisis hits, they find themselves in worse circumstances, even though it was no fault of their own and they did nothing to bring about the problems. But they yet have to bear the consequences of other people's dysfunctional behavior. Now that is everything I stand against, which is why I always preach personal responsibility. If I mess up, I want to bear the consequences of that, right? I fully want to bear the consequences of that. Because if there's no pain for dysfunctional behavior, how am I ever going to change, right? It's not going to work. Now, what I love about the crypto community, by contrast, is that I am somewhat protected from someone else in the crypto economy who may act irresponsibly with their money, right? They will bear the consequences of their own actions. I will bear the consequences of mine, for better or for worse. And I believe that's the way it should be. And it's the problem with governments meddling in the economy, because what they're trying to do is rebalance, quote, air quotes, fairness. Well, fairness, what the hell does that mean? It's meddling in the natural way of things. It's meddling in that natural process of, pain. If I engage in behavior A and it leads to pain, there's less of an incentive for me to do that again, right? So if you don't invest and you have hardship, there you go. Now that does mean you need education, but we'll talk about it later. We managed to separate church and state. I think now we need to separate money and state. So that's why I also love crypto. It says furthermore, in just over a month, in spite of Greek capital controls and capital restrictions, citizens have withdrawn 2.5 billion euros from regional banks. Well, 2.5 billion euros. The natural reaction there would be to think that, wow, that's a lot of money. But when I read that, I had to take a step back and say, well, it depends. How much do Greeks withdraw in an average month? Right? Because if the average month is $2.4 billion, then, well, this is not really a spike, is it? And, that 2.5 billion is abnormally high. I personally wasn't able to find anything to compare it to, so I'm not prepared to be shocked by that without any context. But moving on to the yellow bit here. It says that Greek citizens are only allowed to withdraw 1,800 euros per month due to these capital controls and restrictions. Well, what do we know about fractional reserve banking? Right, the banks have what? Only 3% of the currency available to cover everyone's deposits. And if you combine everyone's deposits, they only actually have 3% of the money actually deposited there. I mean, that works fine as long as everyone keeps their money in the bank. But when there's a bank run, there isn't physically enough currency to give out, which is why then you have to restrict it. And this isn't the first time that Greeks have had capital controls imposed on them, which is a problem. It goes on to say here that during the 2015 summer Grexit, Bitcoin's fiat value went from a low of $225 per Bitcoin to a high of $309 per Bitcoin. At the time, foreign lenders and Greek authorities continued to have problems maintaining the country's volatile economy. Certain banks closed, ATMs were inoperable, and credit cards were shut off, alarming Greek citizens. Well, you bet your boots they'd be alarmed. You cut off their money supply, and if food and shelter and water isn't free, well, literally you're threatening people's survival. What do you expect them to do? Now, I had this chat actually with someone in the comments section of YouTube the other day. We clearly cannot have people living with a financial system like this. The trouble is that while everything is working fine, the average person has no incentive to change anything. But by the time the problems come, it's too late. And I haven't been able to work out the difference yet between people who take steps to protect themselves before a crisis and people who just brush it off, pretending like, yeah, it'll never happen. Now, I'd actually appreciate your comments on this in the YouTube comments. Put a comment below letting me know what is the difference between the people who are apathetic and are just waiting for the crisis to hit and slap them in the face and then to blame someone else. What's the difference between those people and people like you and I who are proactive? Well, that's the key difference. What's the difference between the proactive people and the reactive people? And why don't they wake up and change? I don't suppose they want to be hurt by crisis, but they still don't do anything about it. And they also deny that any sort of crisis is coming. But anyway, let's move on here to the section that says Bitcoin storage is safer than the mattress. It says here that citizens once again may pivot back to storing wealth in their homes, in safes, mattresses, and possibly convert it to alternative currencies like Bitcoin. But there are few options for Greeks to learn about the decentralized money and obtain Bitcoins. Really? Well, I guess they've never heard of Cryptoversity before, have they? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was so eager to launch an affiliate program. Because it's not only an opportunity for Greeks and everybody to earn Bitcoin, but it's also providing the citizens with the one thing that everyone's missing, which is education. In fact, that's actually where I'll end the episode today. I still firmly believe in the premise upon which I built Cryptoversity. I believe that if everyone knew what I know about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, adoption would happen faster than you could say Bob's your uncle. So if you're an entrepreneurial geek citizen and you're listening to this, or if you have connections in Greece, I invite you to head over to cryptoversity.com and sign up for the affiliate program. It's at the bottom of the page. Introduce the opportunity to learn and earn Bitcoin to the Greek people who are desperately looking for a way to dig themselves out. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. From just a few dollars a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. That is all for today, guys. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.